Resurgent India Knowledge Series in association with Association of Financial Advisors of India presents live webinar on India's Green Finance Landscape Challenges and Pathways. Moderator Mr. Ashish Agrawal, Director, Resurgent India Limited. Eminent speakers Mr. Arjun Prasad, General Manager, IFSCA. Mr. Santosh Tiwari, Chief Accountant, Vadodara Municipal Corporation. Mr. Shobhit Rai, Co-founder and Managing Director, Prozil Green Energy Limited. Mr. Kalpesh Gada, Advisor, Climate Policy Initiative.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, friends. I am Ashish Agrawal from Resurgent India, and we are a SEBI registered merchant bank and leading investment bank in India. So, friends, I would like to welcome all of you in this today's webinar on a very, very important topic, which is on India's green finance landscapes and challenges and pathways for the clean tech sector. Friends, I would like to welcome to each of our panel speakers, Mr. Kalpesh Gada ji, Mr. Santosh Tiwari ji, and Mr. Arjun Prasad ji, and Shobhit Rai ji, he is just joining us. So we have 4 panel speakers today, and all these panel speakers are veteran in their field, their experience, and it's a very good panel from the green finance landscape point of view, because we have government municipal corporation from Vadodara. So Santosh ji has already done a lot of green bonds and green financing. So he'll speak on his experience on this side, so that it can help to the other municipal corporations in India, how they can raise green bonds. Then we have Kalpesh Gada ji, who will help us, or will guide us that about how the framework can be worked out, how the certification can be done, and what has been happened internationally on the green bond side also, and how you can reduce your cost also. So Kalpesh ji will guide us on that. And then we have Arjun Prasad ji, who is from the GIFT City, and GIFT City, I think the front runner in the green bond side actually. So Arjun ji will guide us on the various initiatives taken by the GIFT City on the green bond side, and whatever has happened till now, and what are the future strategies which the GIFT City has for the green bond for the Indian corporates. And Shobhit ji there, Shobhit ji, he is a developer actually, so they are actually into implementation of the projects, and also he will speak from their side that what challenges they are facing in the green financing side actually. So friends, you see that green or ESG or climate, all these words are basically related to each other. And you know that Government of India or state governments and even the Indian corporates, everybody is trying to work out some model, or they have announced that they want to be the net zero by this much of period actually. So for achieving of net zero, I think there are many milestones which we have to achieve. And out of these all milestones, the funding is one of the key criteria, because whenever you want to change anything or you want to bring the change, the money, the funding is the core for that actually. So today we are discussing on this side. I will request to my team member to please start a PPT, which will help us to understand the whatever the landscape is there. And then I will invite the panel speakers for their deliberations. So Devesh, can you just start the PPT?
Sure, sir.
Yeah. So, so this is a small PPT which we have prepared for the benefit of all of us. Before that, I will request to all the participants to make it more interactive, and you can ask any question related to the topic. That will help us to have the more interaction on the topic, and you can get more out of this webinar also. Yeah, next slide. So you see that India now taking the leadership in the renewable energy side. Uh, and there are big targets. Currently, we are the seventh position in the India's climate change performance in the World Index. So not bad actually. We are at a very good position, and we have a global ranking on the national green bond issuance. So we are in the 10th position. Actually, this is something very good. Actually, although we are trying to reach less than 10, we are not far away from the other big countries. And solar capacity, installed solar capacity, we are sixth in the solar capacity installed in India and global market. Wind power also, we are fourth. So we see in all these areas, whatever has been written here, actually we are among top 10. So this is a good thing for us that we have reached in all areas in the among top 10 countries, which is I think good for all of us. And we hope that in next 5 to 6 years we'll be reaching in among top five in all these areas. So that's the wish list. There's the vision of our government also, and hopefully with the contribution of all the stakeholders, we'll reach there. Next slide. So why we need actually sustainable and green environment? It's a big question. As we have seen lot of uh, lot of things had happened in the past. Actually, this Amarnath, whatever has happened, actually everybody is aware. There are such incidences which are unexpected because of the global warming. So we need to reverse the global warming impacts, and the for the well-being of the our future generations, we need to have such kind of sustainable and green environment. And there are many other regions which are very, very important for everybody actually. Next. So this is the net zero target of various countries. We see India is still on in the last. Actually, we see the other country like USA and Germany and all. They have announced their plans or their pledge on the net zero side much early to India. But India is such a large country also, and there are many other issues are also there. So 2070, the target for us for the net zero. Next. So we have sufficient time. The funding actually, which we are talking today, this funding landscape, financial landscape and all. So as per the global estimate, there will be a requirement of $125 trillion actually. So it's a huge number actually, which we have to achieve by 2050. And we come down to India, actually, this is something around $10 trillion actually, which is 3 times or 2.5 times of our current GDP. So this is the requirement for the funding in this sector, which is a huge requirement actually. Although there are a lot of capital has been raised, but in spite of it, there still we have to work out hard to get the more and more funding on this side. There are various innovative instruments which we will discuss with our panel speakers. We have done some study that the companies which are registered in India, so there are something odd 25 lakh companies are registered in MCA in India. Out of that, the MCA has classified 10,000 odd companies as the clean tech companies actually, which are somewhere involved in either in any of the process of the clean tech system. And out of that, some 15% companies are rated. So when we are talking funding, actually the credit rating is one of the important aspects which we need to understand also. So out of 100 companies which are in clean tech, 15 companies are rated till now actually. So there is a good scope that for the 85% companies, they will also grow in the ladder and they will be getting the credit rating, and they'll go for the fundraising also. Next. Next slide. So I have discussed that in funding side, even green funding side, actually we are ranked ninth. So here also we are among top 10 countries from the venture capital funding in the clean tech area. So if you see, as per the Impact Investor Council report, India required something around $1 trillion between 2022 to 2030, something in 8 years. So from now onward, it's 5 years we are there, we are left. We required something around $100 billion every year for the green investments or clean tech investments. And if we see the data in 2024, we have uh, we got at almost $2.4 billion funding in the clean tech deals, while China is much ahead of us. And we see 800 companies, startup companies got the funding from the various investors, which is something around 3.6 billion dollar in last some years. And if we compare with the fintech sector, clean tech and fintech, the fintech sector got 5 times of that actually. So we are still way behind of this fintech sector. And if we see the targets, the clean tech sector targets are much ahead of the higher than the fintech sector. So still we are lacking on this side. We need to do hard work to get more and more funding in the form of FDI and other this thing. And we see uh, private funding in the clean sector has been declined. So this is a concern area, but we need to discuss on that how it can be improved or how this funding can increase also. Yeah, next slide. So this I already discussed. So you can go on the next slide. So these are the sectors which I think everybody is aware. So energy or biofuel and recycling and waste treatment, water. These are EV segment also. So these are the areas which are we are covering in the clean tech sector. Next. So challenges, what are the challenges in the renewable energy funding or the clean tech sector actually? So there is a huge investment gap, which is known to everybody, and how we can meet out these gaps. This is important for us. High cost of debt. So if we see in India, nothing is less than 9% or plus 9% actually. And if we see the other part of the world, the costs are very less. So for any infrastructure development, we need to have the cheap or low cost funding. So we need to find out the solutions how the low cost funding can be there. The overdue payments in the power sector, if you see, there are many discoms those have delayed the payments of the developers. So which is again creating the circulation of money in the system. So this is one area, concern area actually. Financial resources, as I discussed, including the banks and the other financial institutions, the total funding is not very large actually, which is there in the current system and what we are looking for. It is very difficult that our banking system will meet out all the requirement of this funding requirement. So we need the dedicated, specialized institutions which should come and forward and they should fund to this sector actually with the support of the government or maybe some developmental financial institutions can be there. Those can be created. Next slide. So many banks have taken some initiatives. Some initiatives are to be taken up because banks are the larger source for the funding in the country as of today. So green deposits is one of the baby steps where the RBI has come out with the circular in 2023. Based on that, banks have started raising green deposit, but still, practically, if you see the momentum has not built up because people are expecting some kind of awareness, better rate of interest. There can be some, I think, showcase can be created by giving some appreciation certificate, some awareness programs for mobilizing green deposits so that each and everybody can contribute in the green deposits. So I would like to just, because we have a lot of people who have joined us, if anybody has invested in the green deposit, you can say yes in the chat box so that we'll know that our audience is well aware about the green deposits. So I've invested some of my money in the green deposits, and I request to all of you who are here that if you can invest a small amount because you are not losing anything out of that. Rather, some banks are offering you better rate of interest on the green deposits. So if we can take the pledge that we will invest some money in the green deposit, I think that will be helpful for the the clean tech funding in the country by way of individual contribution also. Credit rating is one of the another this thing that the banks are not differentially uh, giving the internal rating to the clean tech project. So this can be another area which can be thought of the upfront costs, long payback period, which are the requirement of the industry, co-lending partnerships, which is a new tool in the entire ecosystem. So banks would encourage more and more NBFCs to come and co-lend with them for the small lending to the rooftop or to the EV funding or solar pumps, and also because the NBFCs are specialized for these kind of lending. So this can channelize the retail funding in the sector actually. Risk mitigation, then use of technology. So technology can change the overall ecosystem in the funding also. So banks would work out some kind of platform which can make the decision faster actually. Quasi equity, this sub debt kind of instruments can be introduced in the country, and separate green department. So as we have seen, like SBI has worked out for a climate finance unit, which is a separate department within the bank. So then they are focusing dedicatedly on working the different aspects or different challenges of the clean tech funding, where they can raise funds, they can deploy funds also. These are some of the suggestions from our side, which we thought let us show it, let us discuss on it, and this can help also. Municipal bond issuance, so because we have Santosh ji here, he will be the right person, but we have just tried to work out that how many municipal corporation have raised green bonds. So good number of municipal corporations already raised green bonds in the country. We'll discuss on that, what are the advantages of raising green bonds by the municipal corporations. Next slide. So thank you so much. I just try to build away a small PPT so that we can set set the tone of the program also, and we should know that what is happening in the sector actually. But uh, the panel speakers are there who are expert in their subject. So I would like to invite the panel speaker for their deliberations, and all are having vast experience. So I would like to invite Kalpesh Kadaji, who is the advisor of climate policy initiatives. So Kalpesh ji, first of all, I would like to welcome you, and I will request you if you can introduce yourself. What is the climate policy initiative and how you are helping the sector also. So over to you, Kalpesh ji.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for that background, and thank you to the surgeon for putting this together and inviting me on this panel. Pleasure to be here. Uh, just to give a brief background about what Climate Policy Initiative itself is all about. Climate Policy Initiative, or CPI, is a non-profit advisory organization headquartered in the US, and it has operations, or it has offices in multiple countries, including India. It was set up about 13 years ago with the primary goal of saying that what is it that we can do to enable more flow of capital to climate stroke green activities. So that was a broad goal. And how do we do that? Using the levers of research, convening, and project preparatory facilities, so that on the one hand, there are a whole host of corporations, let's say government bodies, regulators, etc., who are in need of either some kind of a knowledge piece or actual capital. And on the other hand, there are actually the capital providers. So how do we really link them to do? So while we are not into investment banking, but to give a flavor, since we are talking about the subject of green finance, there is a marquee report on the landscape of green finance, which is put out by CPI every 2 years. The latest edition actually came out just last month, which summarized the green finance flows of the years 2021 and 2022. Likewise, it has come up with earlier editions in 2022 and 2020 and so on. That's a report which is very well regarded. Similarly, work happens on this broad side of where are the opportunities. So in 2023, we worked on a report with Impact Investors Council, where the idea was that a whole lot of talk about a whole lot of areas in which there is greater action, which is happening and which will happen. like Mr. Agarwal, you also put out, be it on clean energy side, waste, circularity, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of action which India needs to see in all of these areas. But the idea of that report was to say that can we do a bit of a deep dive and say that of the various sectors or subsectors which are seeing some action, from an investor's or a lender's point of view, which are these where the investment situation is a bit more ready? And therefore, we identified something like battery energy system, green hydrogen, circularity, smart agriculture, and so on. Going a bit deep into it and presenting to the investors that, look, these are opportunities which are sort of available over the medium term. So this kind of research is what CPI does. And just close this initial sort of introduction. One other area where CPI is increasingly active over the last couple of years is training and capacity building of the financial sector specifically for climate-related financial risk as well as sustainable finance. And this is in line with what the RBI had also identified as important in its discussion report. So yeah, that's a broad background of what.
Thank you for introduction. So Kalpesh like to understand the green bond is one of the key area for the green financing, and as we understand that your organization is helping in many ways actually. So can you throw the light India versus global as of today in the green bond market where we are actually as such, and how the investor confidence can be built up to invest in such kind of, because in India domestic market, if you have seen, it has not taken up very well actually till now. With some small baby steps have been taken. The government of India sovereign bonds have issued actually 2 3 times, but practically from the corporation side actually or private corporates also, still the momentum is not there. So we'd like to listen from your point of view what steps should be taken, where we are currently, what steps have been taken by the other countries governments, so that they built up the momentum. So over to you, sir.
No, you're right that while green bonds as an instrument has been around for quite a few years, in terms of the volumes, and more importantly, volumes relative to what India potentially could be needing is much lesser. Any kind of a issuance volume has to be seen in the context of what the potential can be. So it is beyond debate that India's need for green financing, climate financing, etc., is massive. Even if we were to just keep it simple, not get into the actual numbers of billions of dollars and trillions of dollars, etc., the need is massive. Compared to that, the actual issuance has been quite less. Even the Indian government, for example, has done 2 or 3 tranches, but clearly it has not seen the kind of response that it would have expected. Closer to today, in November 2004, the latest issuance, it wanted to do an issuance of 5,000 crore. It got demand only worth around 1,500 crore. The balance 3,500 crore was actually devolved on the primary dealers. So that's a reflection of what kind of demand really exists on the domestic side. So what has happened so far? There is some issuances which have happened from India, but the Indian issuance is just 2.5% of the global issuance. So that's the kind of size that India has been showing so far. Relative to what it could potentially have been, it's much less. What kind of entities have really issued green bonds? By and large, these are the financial institutions, banks, the REC, and these kind of institutions, as well as some of the really large utility scale solar power players, Greenco, and so on. What has not happened is issuances domestically have not happened to the extent that one would have liked them to see. So why has this difference really happened? I think we could just take a step back and say that before we get to what kind of measures can be done to improve the investor confidence, if one was to just ask a simple question, that what are the motivations for an investor to put money into something like this? It really comes down to broadly 2 or 3 things. Either investors will be motivated to invest in some bond or any bond for that matter, because it makes risk-adjusted returns. It makes good sense to invest in those bonds. It makes appropriate risk-adjusted returns for them, in which case they will go ahead and invest. Or even if it doesn't make appropriate risk-adjusted returns, but there is some kind of a compulsion working on them, some kind of a mandate which they are running under, in which case the calculations itself start differing and they start looking at it different. So in a sense, there is either some kind of a carrot or some kind of stick which motivates people to start doing those investments. So if these bonds were to be viewed like any other bond, if we were to just keep their green tag aside for a moment, then it is like saying giving money to whoever is the borrower, uh, which is in any case happening. So various financial institutions, various corporates, etc., are borrowing through the loan markets, through the bond markets, even otherwise. What is extra about the green bonds is that this is essentially a certificate saying that the proceeds of these bonds are going to be used into into areas or into projects or into investments which have been characterized as green. Now, for doing that, there's an additional cost involved. There is verification, there is rating, there are multiple second party opinions, there are 2, 3 different options which are available to the issuer, but essentially all of those need some kind of an extra verification. There's an extra cost which the issuer has to incur. From the issuer's perspective, that one has to see, one, there is an extra cost. On the other hand, the benefit that an issuer will expect in terms of pricing is usually missing. And why is it missing? Because a dedicated pool of capital, which is looking for green bonds separately, is not really available to a massive extent in India. There are some dedicated pools of capital available globally. So you have funds which are dedicatedly set up for making investments into, so to say, green businesses. And why do they do that? Because they in turn find LPs or limited partners who want to make those green investments. Maybe because it's their mandate, they would like to do green investments, or in turn, their countries have asked them to do those investments. So you have some sovereign wealth funds, so you have some private funds, etc., etc. Because those pools exist, and hence they are looking for green assets, and Indian assets are one of the set of assets which they are okay to invest in, which is why investment coming from global pools is still something. We can debate whether the size is large or small or whatever, but at least that is one pool. Domestically, we don't really see such large pools. So coming back to that same question, that either there have to be specifically set aside pools who are in any case chasing green bonds, which is few and far between. Other than that, the green bonds compete with the regular bonds, just like any other bond. And there they are at a disadvantage because the issuer, if the issuer is going to get a similar coupon and yet incur an extra cost, the issuer might say that I'm okay to go ahead and do these green investments or invest in these projects. But when it comes to funding for them, I don't have a particular reason to go ahead and fund them using a green bond. So those are the two main issues. In addition to that, there is also this issue about if somebody says that this is a green bond, then there needs to be a very clear, transparent disclosure and reporting around it. And it's not that those norms don't exist, they exist. But in terms of the actual on the ground implementation, it's all a sort of a work in progress. So the entire system that needs to be in place, the verifiers, the reporting system, the disclosure system, etc., are growing. We are getting there. It's not entirely in place, right? And so in a nutshell, it's a set of all of these factors which is really sort of stopping green bond issuance from growing to the extent it possibly could have been.
You rightly said that there are pros and cons for green bonds actually. For the domestic market, there are some limitations are there, but for international market, you said a lot of money is changing for the green bonds Indian market actually. So as a corporate, suppose if any corporate would like to go for the green bonds on the international market, global market actually. So many such corporates are keen, but they would like to understand what steps are involved basically because they have never raised money globally. So in Indian corporates, what is the eligibility criteria in terms of green bond first of all, and what overall steps are involved whenever anybody want to go for such kind of bonds? Cost definitely will depend on various factors, but because this is yet to start in India, so many people would like to understand from you. If you can throw the light on that, that will be helpful.
Sure. So a useful way to look at it would be that a green bond is a bond, first of all. And additionally, it is also green. So there are requirements which have to be met from the point of view of any foreign currency bond issuance, which has requirements in terms of the tenor, minimum tenor, the amortization pattern, and the pricing at which the bond gets done. This usually keeps changing every now and then. So rather than looking at a hard number, the prevailing bond issuance guidelines which are put out by RBI are what one needs to see. The important parameter is on the tenor, that it has to be at least 3 years or above. The additional requirement is on the fact that it is green. Now, what really is the additional requirement on arising from the fact that it is green? To put it simply, a green bond has to be used for projects which are identified as green, which means there's a question of what is green and what is not green. This takes us to the question of what is usually called as the taxonomy. As an issuer, I could think that here is a project that I'm raising money for. Maybe it reduces the emissions of my existing businesses, and I think therefore it is a green. But the question to be asked is that what do international investors think about it? In their minds, is it green? Is it not green? How is that going to get answered? So for that, there is you can say a handbook put out by ICMA, which is the International Capital Markets Association, which very neatly lays down the green bond principles. Now, those green bond principles lay down the taxonomy, so to say, and in countries which have already adopted a very clear taxonomy of their own, then the country taxonomy applies. In a country like India, which right now a work on green taxonomy is still underway. The finance minister announced that India is going to be working on a green taxonomy of its own, and that work is on. It's not really come out yet. In the meanwhile, there are guidances given out by the government or by the RBI saying that broadly these are the sectors which qualify, and therefore the nitty-gritty of what is green, what is not green, the ICMA principles are what are followed. So they lay down what is green, what is not green. Then next the question comes is that how do you really, as an issuer, prove to the investor that this money will indeed be used for whatever purpose it is meant to be? Think of it like any bond which has some use of proceeds requirement, or in an equity issue, you say that I'm going to be raising equity for something, and you should not be diverting equity into some other purpose which was not meant to be. Something similar happens here. There needs to be regular reporting. An issuer needs to come out with a green bond framework to begin with, saying that this is what my stated end objective is. This is what the benefit the company is going to get in terms of emissions, etc., etc. And then on a frequent basis, a quarterly or a 6-monthly basis. In simple terms, it is like saying that you have to show that proof that the money was used for those green purposes. So in a nutshell, the requirements are one, all those requirements which apply to any normal bond. The additional requirements are in the form of proving its greenness. And just to complete that argument, how do you really prove its greenness? The ICMA principles lay down 4 specific mechanisms. Either you can get it rated. There are rating agencies which rate the bond on their greenness. Climate Bonds Initiative is one such organization. They have entities associated with them who go ahead and do that work. The other option is a second party opinion. Third option is a verification. So all of these inherently are meant to prove the credentials of the greenness of the bond. It's just that specifically all of them have slightly different connotations. A verification is a little different from a rating and so on. But for now, easier to just assume that there is a proving of that credential which the issuer needs to do. And for that, you have various consultants also to help you.
Thank you so much, Kalpeshji. I think you have very well said. One last thing which I would like to understand from the MSME, because India has large number of MSME. So do they eligible for the raising green bond from the international market? And any such threshold limit there or something is there which?
From a market reality point of view, the size of an individual bond is usually so large that MSMEs will usually not be able to go ahead and raise that directly. It's again no different from a regular bond. Most MSMEs would unlikely be issuing bonds globally or borrowing directly from the global markets, simply because of two things. One, their own need will be such that it will not map up with a multi-million dollar bond, which international investors would ideally be looking to do, because it needs a lot of time and effort on the part of the investor, because it is doing a sovereign analysis as well, a forex analysis as well. All that to be done for a small bond investment doesn't make it worthwhile for them. So MSMEs usually find it a challenge to do a global bond directly. Uh, However, there are options available domestically. So a green bond can be done domestically as well. And in fact, while we are talking about bonds, it is a green financing which is really the required. It could even come in the form of a loan. So it is green financing which the MSMEs need, or for that matter. Transition financing is what MSMEs need. The difference between green and transition financing simply being that if you're using it for a purpose where emission intensity is going to reduce, but still not come down to close to zero, that's transition finance. And if you're raising it for the purpose which is the emissions is close to zero, like green energy and all of that, that's green finance. So really the requirement on the part of the MSCs is that of financing. While they may be finding it challenging to do the bond route straight away, they can still access the loans. I would say it is no different from even in the conventional capital market sense. What we would typically find is that manufacturing entities who are rated in the AA category or above, and therefore also of a certain size and above, are the ones who are more likely to approach the capital markets. Whereas entities rated in the single A category, triple B category, or just about investment grade category are the ones who are more likely to borrow, say, from banks and NBFCs. So it's that loan versus bond kind of a discussion debate which holds true.
Thank you so much, Kalpeshji. Thank you so much for giving a lot of insights to us. So, friends, now we have Arjun Prasad ji, who is GM or IFSC authority, which is we called it Gift City. I think many people are very much aware about the Gift City point of view. So, Arjunji, welcome to you in this webinar. And Arjunji, we like to request you to please introduce yourself, maybe a small introduction, and then we'd like to have a presentation from you where you can give us the complete idea what is the solutions which you are giving to the corporates and the other institutions for the green financing point of view. So,
Thank you, Ashish,
yeah,
and
yes, sir.
thank you
Over to you.
for inviting me for this conference, virtual mode. So I am a general manager. I am working at International Financial Services Centers Authority, which is the regulator of Gift City in Gujarat. So I'm here for last 4 years. Prior to joining IFSC, I was with the SEBI for 12 years, handling various portfolios. So just give me one moment. I will upload
But your photo is not coming. Your picture is not coming actually.
Oh,
Not coming on
some
the screen.
problem in the system.
No issue.
Photo
No
is
issue,
on.
sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, you please carry on, sir.
Yeah. I hope the PPT slides are visible.
Yes, now it is visible, sir.
Oh, just one. So before coming to the topic on for today's discussion is on green financing. So I'd like to spend few minutes on the role of GIFT IFSC, GIFT City IFSA, because this is something which may be new for some of the people. So when you come to GIFT City, I mean the story of GIFT City is closely linked to the India's opportunity. This is the market where we connect India with the world. So this is basically for gateway for connecting India. So I think most of us are already aware. India is currently the fastest growing large economy in the world, and last year we had a GDP growth rate of 8.2 percentage, and we are expected to grow at 7 to 8% every year. We are right now the fifth largest economy in the world, and very soon we'll be reaching third largest economy by financial year 28. And there are estimates that by 2047. India will become a very large economy with GDP of more than $35 trillion, and currently we are at a $4 trillion. And the main point is, since we are reaching from $4 trillion to, and the ambition is to reach more than 30-40 trillion dollar in the coming 20-25 years, we need lots and lots of foreign capital. And that is where Gift City plays an important role in getting more foreign capital into the country. This is the ambition which we have, Viksit Bharat 2047. Some of the numbers, I mean, potential growth rate of more than 7%. And there are estimates which says $35 trillion. There are estimates which says $55 trillion. So it's a very big amount which we need, from $4 trillion to 35 or 40 or $50 trillion in the coming 20-25 years. Industry share has to rise from 17 to 25%. Exports will grow 5 times. And as it has already been mentioned, we have the ambitious target of reaching net zero by 2070. And the numbers, it was already mentioned, we need more than $10 trillion. So out of reaching this amount of $10 trillion, we need lots and lots of foreign capital, wherein Gift City, being the international market of India, plays a very big role. So, Gift City, a very brief background. The IFSC was established in 2015, and that point it was regulated by SEBI, RBI, IRDA. IFSC as a regulator was established on October 1st, 2020. And in the last 4 years, actually, we have seen tremendous growth across various areas. And these are some of the vision of Honorable Prime Minister for Gift City. So there are clearly 3-4 objectives of Gift City. One is basically connecting India with the world, which means getting more and more foreign capital into the country. Second is onshoring the offshore, we call it. There are various India-related services happening from various parts of the world. So, example, it is Mauritius or Singapore, Cayman, Ireland, Dublin. Can we get those services within the geography of India for serving the Indian territory? So, in fact, we have done in the case of funds. There have been several funds set up in IFSC, which are basically pooling money from foreign capital and investing into India. The second is there is also an important role where we can become a regional hub and a global hub in certain areas, where I think one area is fintech, this second is sustainable finance, and there are many other areas where we can only serve not just India but the region and the world. Some of the clear benefits of IFSC: we are the one regulator, 4-in-1 regulator, which means we are the banking regulator. IFSC, we are the regulator of securities market. We are the regulator of insurance. We are the regulator of pension fund. We are a unified regulator for all the financial services happening here. And in terms of Foreign Exchange Management Act, IFSC is concerned, Gift City is concerned as a non-resident zone, which means there are no capital restrictions when it comes to movement of capital from IFSC to any other part of the world. So that actually makes it attractive for the foreign investors to come here. We don't deal in INR, so it's an international market within India. We deal with 15 foreign currencies, and mostly it is US dollar. And our ambition is to compete with the global market. So we benchmark our regulations with various parts of the world, and we complement the Indian market in getting more capital into the country. There's an attractive tax regime. So we have tax holiday of 10 years out of 15 years for the entities present here. And the idea is to attract more foreign capital into the country. So I'll not go into more detail, but on the capital market side, we are having 4 regulations, which are very important: listing regulations, fund management regulations, intermediaries regulations, and market infrastructure institutions regulation. So when it comes to listing of bonds and green bonds, it is covered under a unified regulation, which is under the listing regulations. So this is the story so far. So when we are set up in October 2020, from 2015 to 2020, we had 129 entities. Right now, we have more than 700 entities, and most of them have come in the last few years. We have huge volumes on the stock exchange mainly because of the connect between NSE and Singapore Exchange. We have more than $100 billion monthly volume on the connect. We have huge banking asset size, close to 30 banks are present here. And there are 12 foreign banks present here from various parts of the world, including US, Europe, Japan, Singapore, Australia. They are present here. Right now, we have crossed 200 funds. The funds are increasing very fast. So last quarter, it was 168. Right now, we have already crossed 200 funds here. There are various listing of bonds. Close to $65 billion listing has already taken place. I will cover in more detail on the bond side. So we are actually growing very fast in the last 2 years. So on the exchange side, there are few products which are very important. There are two exchanges, both are subsidiaries of NSE and BSE respectively, two clearing corporations. Here we have one depository, India International Depository, for the entire capital market and bullion market also. So SGX Nifty Connect has gone live. It is full live since July 2023. And we are having listing of bonds. Direct listing has been announced, which allows Indian companies to list equity shares on the international exchanges. This will happen very soon. The regulations are already in place, and we have products where they provide access for the retail to access global markets. Coming to the topic of today's discussion, the idea is to become a hub for sustainable finance. This was also announced by Honorable Finance Minister during the budget. For GIFT IFSC, services for global capital for sustainable and climate financing in the country will be facilitated in the GIFT City. And Honorable Prime Minister has highlighted on many occasions on GIFT City being an important gateway, including for getting global and debt and equity capital for sustainable and climate projects here. So on the listing of bonds, what we have done, our framework is very different from the domestic side, and we have compared with the global standards in various jurisdictions, mainly Singapore, London, Hong Kong, and other jurisdictions. So we have a globally benchmarked regulations. So the idea is to promote ease of doing business because of the nature of the instrument, which is largely catering to institutional investors. The cost which is involved for an issuer to list on IFSC exchanges is very less compared to some of the other markets. And we have permitted both primary and secondary listing. So primary listing means it is coming for the first time listing here. And we also have many bonds which are exclusively listed on the IFSC exchanges. We can have dual listing also, where the same bond can be listed on our platform. At the same time, it can be listed on Luxembourg or London or Singapore, which are the most preferred one for listing of bonds here. So we have made credit rating mandatory for all the bonds which are listed here. In fact, on the green side, we have also mandated independent external reviewer, which is required to be done. And the bonds which are listed here can be placed on the depository, which is there in IFSC. It can also be placed on the international depositories, which are largely Euroclear, Clearstream, and DTCC, making it very easier for the foreign investors to participate here. I think this was being discussed some time back on listing of why foreign investors are very keen to invest into green projects, and they have a dedicated pool for investing here. So what we have done is we have a framework for green bonds, social bonds, sustainable bonds, sustainability linked bonds. And all these frameworks are aligned with the global standards. So I think we had a reference of ICMA. So we permit if it is aligned with ICMA standards principles, or if it is aligned with climate bond standards principle, or it is aligned with European Union taxonomy or Asian taxonomy. And as it was mentioned, Government of India is soon, they will come up with taxonomy for India. So whenever we have our own taxonomy, that will also get added in this framework. So there is a lot of flexibility which has been provided, but at the same time, we recognize globally accepted standards for raising bonds. And we understand the importance of transition bonds, particularly for hard to abate sectors. So in the process of coming out with a framework which will actually cater to those sectors, for example, steel, cement, chemicals, and very soon we'll have a framework for transition bonds. So as a regulator, we ensure that there are adequate checks in place to ensure that all the pre-issuance disclosures are made as well as post-issuance disclosures are made on the exchanges, largely aligned with the global standards. So they have to disclose all these requirements in their offerings, both initial and post. And so we are having use of proceeds bonds in terms of green, social, sustainability bonds, and also the disclosure requirements for sustainability linked bonds. So there are two things which I thought I will highlight. One is, I've already mentioned, independent external reviewer has been made mandatory here. The second is we have recently issued a circular which actually provides guidance on these to all the companies that they have to mitigate greenwashing risk. There should not be any greenwashing happening from this jurisdiction. So these are some numbers. It is very successful here. So the total debt listing till date, it's close to $65 billion, out of which actually if $15 billion are in the ESG space. So close to around maybe 25%. It's already ESG labeled. And we have all 4 types of listing here: green, social, sustainable, and SLB is listed here. So this also indicates primary listing, which means they have come only on the IFSC exchanges. And there are few which are secondary listing where they are listed on multiple exchanges. This is a global data from Climate Bonds Initiative. So just to reflect that this is something GSS plus bonds, green bonds, which is very popular instrument in the last few years. And this will keep on increasing. So we expect the same trend to continue here. And in fact, India, it needs more and more capital. So in fact, the growth of green bonds, we're expecting much more compared to the global trend, which is happening. I will reflect on some of the other initiatives which we have done, which is quite unique compared to some of the other regulators in the world. So what we have done, we have close to 30 banks here. So we have actually mandated all the banks present here to have a board-approved policy on sustainable and sustainability-linked lending, and they have to lend 5% of the lending mandatorily in terms of these projects. So that's a mandate which has been given by regulator. And last financial year, 1.5 billion was done in this area. The third is, funds. It's a very active ecosystem here. Close to 200 funds in the last 2.5 years have been set up, mostly on the AIF side. So we have a framework for ESG schemes in case they want to pool foreign capital and invest into Indian projects. They can do through the fund route also. So we have guidelines in terms of initial disclosures, continuous disclosures. There's a clear framework in place. And we have also said that for first 10 funds which are set up here, we will not take any regulatory fee. That is an incentive if you come with these frameworks. And 2 have already taken registration. So I'll stop here for any questions which you may have on IFSC.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I think it's a very good presentation and a lot of insights you have given to us. And hopefully this will be helpful to our audience also. So Arjunji, although you have covered almost all the questions in your discussion, but only one thing which you like to understand, what initiatives will be taken to attract more and more international investors, the Indian green bond market actually.
So I think the main point when it comes to attracting foreign investor is to have the on the regulatory side to have the standards which they are familiar with. So we have recognized ICMA standards, climate bond standards, European Union standards, and Asian standards. So our idea is the issuers and the investors, they should be comfortable with these global standards. And we have taken various initiatives to ensure that there is no greenwashing happening, and the purpose for which money has been collected by the issuer actually goes into those projects. That is one way of getting more foreign capital. The second is, there are some incentives which probably can be given. For example, we have done in the case of ESG funds, if they are coming to the funds route, just to attract people to come and set up in Gift City.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. So, friends, now we have very eminent personality with us, Sri Santosh Tiwari ji. Santosh ji, the Chief Accountant of Vadodara Municipal Corporation. So, Santosh ji, welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining with us, sir. So, Santosh ji, we would like to, although you are not requiring introduction, but maybe 30 seconds you can cover up your brief about yourself, your journey also. And then we would like to understand from you, sir, because you have already done the green bonds fundraising in the past, actually. So there are many people who are asking from us that if you can share your experience on the green bonds fundraising side at Municipal Corporation, which will be helpful. What are the key takeaways are there also, and what are the learnings also which you have got in this? What are the challenges also which you have faced? So over to you, sir, for your deliberation.
Thank you, Ayushi and Resurgent India, for giving me an opportunity. Myself, Santosh Tiwari. I'm a chief accountant, basically a CFO of Vadodara Municipal Corporation, an urban local body, who is constantly involved in working for the betterment of its citizens. So generally, our territory is the municipal limit, and we deal with improving the standards of civic services for the residents. And for that, we need money. We collect the money in form of taxation also, property tax generally, which all the residents are paying, professional tax and many other tax income. We have tax income, we have non-tax income. We receive government grants also for work, for doing the capital works, infrastructure works also. Still, we also have to contribute. So if frankly I say, the taxation thing, which is that is not enough. That the tax which we collect, it is generally a 30 to 40% of the kind of services which we deliver. Whatever services we deliver, it's only 30 to 40% cost is being recovered from the public. Rest, then other we get grants and all this. But for infrastructure, development of infrastructure in the city, we need funds. And for that, we have multiple options. We have options of traditional funding. We have options of multilateral agencies fundings, banks, financial institutions, World Bank, JICA, etc. And in last few years, this is not, although municipal bond is not new in India, but in 98 also, the journey of municipal bond started in 1998 when Bangalore and Ahmedabad has taken up the initiative. And then suddenly there was a gap of 10 to 15 years. And after 2015, the bond market again started gearing up the momentum. And after 2017, it has gone up. So in short, I'll say that almost more than 4,000 ULBs are there in India, and hardly 100 are being rated, credit rating. So 100 ULBs are rated, and mostly of them are double A, double B or something. Only 10 to 15 urban local bodies are double A plus rated, and we are one of them. So our rating is equivalent to Ahmedabad, Surat, Mumbai, and other top metro type municipal corporations, means greater municipal corporations. So was the actually the bond is basically a mode of self sustainability, self financial dependency, and all this thing. So 74th constitutional amendment talks about the self dependency and independentness of self sustainability in terms of finance of urban local body. So honorable prime minister is also constantly trying that each urban local body should become self sustainable. So to fulfill that, we had tried this option. The slide which you showed, is said there were few municipal corporations which has issued a green bond. Sorry, I would like to correct in that 13 municipal corporations has issued municipal bond, and only out of that, only 4 corporations have issued green municipal bond.
Okay.
And they are Ghaziabad, Indore, Ahmedabad, and Baroda. So when Ghaziabad came, there no regulations were there actually regarding this green bond. So the Ahmedabad, Ghaziabad, and Indore, it is generally greenwashing type, or they have taken the certification, self certification is there. What differentiates us? Vadodara Municipal Corporation's bond is based on the international market standards. We have taken the certification of Climate Bond Initiative, and we had appointed the third independent reviewer, and we had prepared. We are the first in Asia actually, urban local body, not corporate. Neither government and corporate PSUs do come up with the regular this municipal bonds, take the international certification. But in Asia, we are the only urban local body who has drafted the green finance framework and taken the certification from Climate Bond Initiative. And this is what Climate Bond Initiative people had informed us. So we had drafted the green finance framework. On the basis of that, we had appointed a DNV Business Assurance was our third party independent verifier, and the certification. So this is what makes us the unique. We have in March 2022, this green bond recently, which we issued in March 24, it was our second issue. First issue was a regular municipal bond, and it was in March 2022. our both the bonds holds the record of highest number of subscription. Means our first bond was subscribed by more than 10 times, and this second green bond subscribed almost by 14.6 times. The rate of interest which we received in the first bond, it was 7.15%, which is also holding the record of lowest ever coupon rate in India in the municipal bond. And recently issued green bond was 7.90, and that rate is equivalent to Ahmedabad also. So we why we are getting the bigger subscription, highly subscribed. Other corporations hardly manage to do their issue subscribe 2, 3, or 5 times. That too by adopting a green shoe option. We do not adopt a green shoe option. Still, our both bonds are subscribed by more than 10 times. So why? So means here we have transformed ourselves. My people might be aware about that. What corporations generally we are not uh, comfortable to work like a corporate. We don't have corporate culture, but here we try to convert ourselves. We have transformed ourselves, and we have worked like a corporate actually. So regarding this takeaways and challenges which we faced in this green bond, we had not faced much challenge apart from this certification process and this its cost and all this thing. Because earlier, because we were in market, we are listed entity, and we had already issued a bond. So major challenges which we faced, that was in first bond. So political will was not there, administrative will was also not there. There was a change in political leadership as well as administrative leadership. 4 or 5 commissioners has been changed during that tenure. Regulatory SEBI has also changed. The regulatory changes were also there. Due diligence was introduced, and KYC, bond issue committee, many new things. Means before 2019, the, issuing a bond was easier. But when 2019 SEBI came up with the new regulations, the due diligence and all this thing, it has more made this task more harder than more almost by 60 to 70%. We have to declare all our court cases and all this thing. All our details was in vernacular language Gujarati. We had to convert it in English, and like that. COVID pandemic, when we started our bond in March 2000, COVID pandemic was there. Geopolitical conflict was also there. Ukraine Russia war was going on. Due to COVID pandemic, market was also very down, and in those times our bond has achieved this success. So we had overcome this. We had lack of planning also. Institutional capacity is also not as good as compared to corporates and all this thing. Uh, so these were the challenges which we overcome in our first bond. In this green bond, the only thing which we faced was this certification process, because there was no model for green finance framework. So we had gone through some other models of international models, and accordingly we had drafted our green finance framework. So that was also very well appreciated by climate bond and the independent reviewer also. Cost thing, actually the cost which this verifiers and certification cost is not much, but verification cost is high. So we as a urban local body have the access of low cost funding. So creating a cost by doing this, it creates a problem for us. Convincing our political bosses is not very easy. So that was the job, but that too we had overcome. We had negotiated, we managed, and we bought in our limitations. We had compromised, we had reduced at various other agencies also. There we tried to negotiate with them, and we came up with the win-win situation things. This is how we overcome. One thing is that each bond means urban local bodies, each bond is a green bond, whether it is being declared, whether it is being tagged, or whether it is being not tagged. Because corporations are generally involved in betterment. They are building the road, it also contributes. If the clean water also contributes to good environment, sewage system, traffic, bridges, etc. So in short, if you see that each activity of corporation is can be treated as a green, but that is a green washing actually. If I think these people, IFSC people and the Sanjay Gada, this Gadaji will agree. Here we had taken the certification. So takeaways are that, in short, I'll say that that by going for the bonds means not adopting the traditional means of funding, we came to know many things about our organization, which we were not knowing actually. When we go, our books were fine tuned. Actually, many things, even we were knowing that our corporation was incorporated on 1st April 1966, but I was not having the document. Due to bond, I had to find that document, and I had visited archive, and due to lots of effort, the thing which I was not having, that I had tried to recover. I came to know that I have almost 400 bank accounts, out of which 250 are non-operative, and that two are lying since last 15-20 years. Apart from that, we had 4,000 cases, smaller, bigger cases, more than 4,000 cases. For due diligence, we have to declare the cases as per materiality policy, and we almost declared 50 cases as per materiality policy. But all that cases details were updated, and latest status was incorporated because of this bond and all this thing. When we had the idea of bond in 2022, we are not, our main vision document is budget document. We are not supposed to prepare annual report or balance sheet, but for the sake of reforms we were preparing. When in 2021 I was way behind, 5 years. In 2021 I had finalized the balance sheet of 2015-16. So within the span of 1.5 year, we had finalized the balance sheet of 6 years. And now at present, I have the my last financial year's balance sheet already certified and placed on my website on May 31st. So within 60 days of the completion of financial year, we are doing that. That is what transformation we had took. And further, in 2021 I was lacking behind in terms of annual report 4 5 years back, and to my 21-22 financial year's balance sheet got award from International Institute of Chartered Accountant. They had given us the award for making the balance sheet equivalent to the corporate. So we are the only urban local body in India who has received such kind of recognitions in by Institute of Chartered Accountants, ICAI, for that. Apart from that, fiscal discipline, credit rating means, as I said, we were having the standalone credit rating of A minus, but under structured obligation, and we were doing various reforms, being more aware and accountable towards our collections and all this thing. Our rating in structured obligation has increased up to AA plus, which is highest in municipal for any municipal corporation. No, municipal corporations are not allotted ratings above AA plus. Apart from this, debt capacity also, we also came up awareness. We got also awareness about the debt capacity, that how much, looking to the finances and all things, that we had the debt capacity of 1,200 crores and all this thing. Plus, we also got the opportunity to work with US Treasury. As I said, India's GDP, US bond market is equivalent to India's GDP. So the senior advisors from US Treasury, they had handholded in our bond, both the bond processes and all these things. So these were the few takeaways which, and learnings which we didn't, challenges also already I said. But in one liner, although we are here for green finance, green bond, and but whenever any corporation is going for the bonds, my suggestion would be, first time they should go for normal bonds, and after that immediately second bond there should be for green bond. Because they, by coming up with this regular municipal bond, so some less compliances are there, but that would be creating, that would be boosting their confidence. And then after going to the green bond would be a very useful for them. This is what I would like to convey. Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh sir. Thank you so much. I think, first of all, congratulations to you that you got the award from the CA Institute for the making the balance sheet like corporate balance sheet actually. So it's a very, very great step which you have taken. And one word I will say that you are the man of change, because you have to fight the system and your internal department also. So that's a big thing. And the learning which you have told, that house in order, transparency, these things are very, very important. And I think it will be the torch bearer for the entire municipal corporations in India. And because this is a step which you have taken, others will listen it also. We will try to send your message to all these corporations, so that they should also, I think, excited to go for this kind of bond raising also. One thing which has come with this discussion, that you told that normal bond the pricing by 7.15, and for the green bond it was 7.90. So what excites you to go into that differential pricing, higher pricing for the green bond? Do you get any other incentive or advantages from the state government or from the other areas where you can cover up this cost, which is the additional cost which you have paid? So if you can highlight on that.
Yeah. So this 7.15 was in March 22, when the interest rates were low. After that, the interest rates has gone up by 2% actually. And the rate has gone by 2%, but our spread for green bond was only this 75 paisa only. So you can see the difference. Plus, first bond, the GSEC was 6.85 when in March 2000, and we got the fund at 7.15. So 31 paisa was the spread. Here, some 84 paisa spread was there, comparing if we compare to the 10-year GSEC rate, government securities rate. So generally, that was the reason why we got the high cost. Apart from that, I had managed my administrative cost to keep it below 0.50 paisa. So that would be divided in 5 years cost and all this thing. So nothing much is differentiated. Apart from that, for each bond, I had got 13 crore incentive from state government, central government, Mahua. So first bond, my net rate subvention after subvention, it is 4.55%, and this bond would be around somewhat around 5.50 or something like that would be for the second bond after receiving the incentive and subvention and all this thing. So if we consider this, then the funds which we have received is at very cheap comparative to that.
Correct. If you compare with the domestic market, I think it is better than the bank's rate and all, overall funding cost actually. So
Yes.
great, sir. Thank you so much. I think you have given a lot of insights, and these are very, very helpful actually. So all the panel speakers have given us lot of learnings, and hopefully this will help inching up of the green finance in India, because many corporates, those are here, or banks and the financial institutions also, even the rating agencies are also here, they are listening us. So they will have some, I think, more ideas and more ways of raising money from the different markets, and they will be more transparent. As Santoshji has told, that you did the in a transparent manner, basically, by doing the certification, verification. Although this can be a little cost to the organization, but in the longer run, it will be beneficial to you. So one last question to all the panel speakers: this green bonds, or what are normal bonds we are taking, what can be done for the secondary market for these bonds actually? Because still now we have not seen the traction on the secondary market, the bond market in India actually. So even the GIFT City also would like to understand from the Arjunji, that how you are creating the ecosystem for the secondary market of these bonds which are listed now in the stock exchanges actually. So over to you.
So,
Anybody would like to take? Yeah, please.
yeah, thanks for this question. I think this is a question which is relevant not just for green bonds, but bonds in general, because here we are having $65 billion bonds, but the nature of instruments is such that the investors who are holding it, they generally tend to hold it for maturity. And in case there are some transactions, they do it over the counter. So this is largely what we have seen, not just in IFSC, but even in global markets, this has been trend. Nevertheless, I think this is something which is in our priority list also. In the next maybe couple of months, we'll come out with some proposals on how do we actually ensure secondary market liquidity for both for the normal corporate bonds as well as GSS plus bonds, green bonds, which are listed here.
Okay, got it. So till now the volumes are not there, but you believe that the volumes will come.
Yeah, so this is the we are having on the bond side, which is mainly listing, and it's not just about our exchange. It's about the same corporates. If they're going to Luxembourg or London or Singapore, the volumes are not there. This is how the bonds are being traded through the OTC or through telephonic calls or between banks to banks. It's not something which is very liquid. So that is some bank has to deal with some large investors over the phone, and they are currently doing transaction. But we'll have to look on how to bring those transactions which are happening OTC on the exchange platform. That is something we have to work on it.
Okay, great. So Kalpesh ji, do you have any suggestion on that?
So I agree with the basic observation which Arjun made, that this is not really a problem for green bonds. It is a problem for bonds in general in the country. It is a little bit of a chicken and egg kind of a situation. People who might want to trade in bonds are unlikely to buy that in the primary market because the secondary market liquidity is uncertain or unknown. They're not sure whether they can sell it up. Unlike equity markets where people know that most large number of stocks are very liquid, the liquidity of stocks is known, which stocks are illiquid is also known, etc. etc. So if you buy a stock in the IPO market, you know that you can very happily sell it in the secondary. Here, because you think you would be unable to sell, and therefore, right on day one, those who might want to trade will unlikely be buying into it. And because on day one, this has been bought by the real long term investors, maybe the insurance companies or maybe the pension funds, etc., who are in any case going to buy and buy it for the yield or the accrual, etc., there's no reason for them to sell. So this cycle needs to be broken somewhere. Now, having said that, either it can be broken through the regulatory kind of measures where the regulator says that a certain percentage of your bonds you will have to necessarily sell down, etc., etc. That's not something which is very easily workable because there will be a pushback. The second is where market itself solves for it. And some of those instances have happened over the past 2, 3 years. You have a large number of online bond platforms who have come up, who are typically using the pockets of family offices and HNIs, etc., to look for yield. So now there's a growing tendency where many of the investors, the traditional investors, maybe the mutual funds, maybe the AIFs, maybe some insurance companies, etc., these bond platforms would go to them and say that, what if I get you a customer for some bond which you're holding so that you can then deploy it into something afresh? And to the HNIs, they say that, what if I get you a bond which has a lesser residual tenor and a decent yield, etc., etc. So some of this, which was earlier happening purely OTC, is now getting some kind of a semblance of order. So not that the volumes are very material, but at least it is slowly coming in there. And some of the action which is there created by these bond platforms is not entirely OTC, nor is it entirely in the digital format, but it's somewhere in between. So at least those seeds have been sown, and any uh, family office or some such investor who has once tasted it will now want more such deals to happen. So the market itself is solving for some of it, is what I'm saying. And this will eventually move to the green bonds as well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So Santosh ji, would you like to comment on that, sir?
Yes, actually, we had two bonds listed, one regular and second one is green. And recently, green listed bond, it has been traded in secondary market. So initially, we were having 5 investors, and now it has been divided into 7 investors actually. So first bond is the investors are same, but in second bond, we the number of investors has been increased. Our bond was the private placement bond. So, but my suggestion would be that the public issue, Indore has came up with the public issue, and some Surat is also planning for the public issue, and next year we might also come for the when public issue is there, then the secondary market would be definitely growing in it. So, but the thing is that this public issue cost is almost 4 times as compared to private issue. So that is also a big challenge for municipal bond. In for municipal bonds, I am not aware about corporate bonds and all this thing, but justifying 4 times cost is a tough. Would be a really tough task for us to convince our administrative as well as political leadership. But as per my suggestion, public issue would be great for this.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So thank you so much for all of you for joining with us and giving a lot of insights about the topic, and a lot of learnings are there, and a lot of practical examples have also been discussed here, and case studies have also been discussed. So I believe that it will be helpful to all the participants who have joined us, and we will send it to the all the joinees the minutes of this discussion, whatever the discussion we had, and we'll send it to the other people also, so that it can be widely circulated. And the topic which we have today, I think it has been very well covered also. So I would like to thank you once again to Santosh ji and Kalpesh ji and the Arjun ji for their views on the topic, and speaking from their, I think, very transparent manner, and giving us a lot of insights also. And I would like to thank you to the audience, the people who have joined us from the different part of the country and from the international also in this webinar. And I would like to thank you to the Resurgent India team. Those have made it successful. They have done hard work to bring all of us at one place and discuss on this such topic. I believe this 1 hour session will not be sufficient for such an important topic actually, because we need hours and hours. So as Resurgent India, we are organizing such kind of webinars regularly. So we'll try to repeat such kind of discussion again, maybe after some days, so that we can have a more deliberation, more discussion, and more people can join us from the panel side also by giving your views also. So thank you once again to everybody, and I hope that this will be helpful to all of us, this webinar actually. So thank you everybody. Thanks a lot, and good evening to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.